Hello, and welcome into the Fantasy Football Podcast presented by the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. We are live today with the live Week 8 Fantasy Lounge preview. We're here to just roll through some numbers. We're going through some start sits. We're going to be talking some picks, some game totals, some over-unders. Brad, how are we doing today, bud? We got this game on here, Jacksonville and the Broncos. Been kind of ugly so far.
Yeah, Russell Wilson, he's bad. Like, he's just bad. That interception was bad. He almost threw a pick on his first throw. Also, the Broncos, the defense, which is supposed to be their strong suit, has just been battered with penalties up to this point. It's been a pretty rough game. I'll tell you what, though, I like what I'm seeing from Travis Etienne in that volume right now. So that excites me in a couple places where I made some what at the time could have been questionable. I moved Najee Harris for Travis Etienne straight up like 3 weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago. And it's looking good right now. So
yeah, absolutely. What else you got going on in this game? Any Cortland Sutton, any Jerry Jeudy?
I've got Scott Fishbowl. I went heavy Broncos and took Jeudy and Sutton. So both of them are starting for me in Scott Fishbowl. I do have Dolchik in a redraft league. We talked a little bit about him yesterday. But against Devin Lloyd, it has not. I mean, the offense just hasn't looked good in general, not just him. So, but that's it. I don't have any Russ anywhere. I avoided him like the plague. And I'm not really sure why I ended up with so many damn Broncos on Scott Fishbowl, but it just happened out that way.
Yeah, you start drafting a little bit earlier, right?
Yeah, way early. Yeah.
So far, Jerry Jeudy 2 for 14. I started him today. Latavius Murray 1 for 13. Yikes. Sutton 1 for 13. Those are the only receptions so far. So Russ is 4 for 7 with 40 yards and an interception. We're creeping up on halftime. Whoop! Stop traffic. He just made a pass for 1 yard.
Ooh, how about that?
Look at him. Evan Ingram leading the way for the Jaguars, 3 catches, 37 yards, and a touchdown. Etienne with a couple of catches, 2 for 12. Dan Arnold, 1 for 8. Zay Jones, 1 for 7. I need Zay Jones to pick it up. And Jermichael Hasty has a couple of catches, getting involved. What's Hasty doing? He's got 3 carries, too. So far, Hasty's got 5 touches. We're got 5 minutes left in the first half, on pace for about 10 touches in this game. Looking like he may have been a nice little stash this week. Were there any key pickups that you made this week to get into your lineups?
Out of this game?
No, just in general. Just in general, like some waiver wire guys that you're like you're plugging in this week with maybe we'll call it semi-confidence.
Yeah, not this week. Not this week.
No.
A couple weeks ago, Paris Campbell was a big pickup for me, but now it's depending on how Sam Ehlinger plays, is he going to air it out? Is he going to keep it close in the line of scrimmage? You kind of don't know. He was a big one for me. And then I've been questioning myself right now around Noah Brown because he's been dropped in most of the redraft formats that I'm in. And he really did get a good amount of looks last week compared to what Michael Gallup got. So I've been kicking that around a little bit. Like, do I want to spend a last minute waiver pickup for him before the game start today to throw him in? Because I am in a pretty deep league. It's a 16 team and you start 13 in total.
Wow,
3 wide receivers. Yeah, 3 wide receivers, 4 flexes. So, it's because it's so deep. Surprisingly, he's even out there. Yeah, well, so I did pick up Marquise Goodwin, but now DK and Tyler Lockett are going to play. So is there much there? Now, you have to start DK, and we'll get to this. You got to start those guys because they're healthy, but don't be surprised if they go out in the first quarter because they re-aggravate that patella. And I don't remember what was Lockett's ankle.
I'm not sure, but they're both playing.
They're both playing. So there is a world where Goodwin does end up with a really solid game again because of injuries. But so
we'll get into that one. We can just dive into the games, I guess. Here, Jeudy just made a nice big splash, 1 for 25. Jeudy, a touchdown! Woo!
Yeah, how about
touchdown?
That? Yeah, Jerry.
Broncos country. Let's ride. Let's go. We got live action here. Smash the like button, share the video, and follow us on youtube.com/SGPN Fantasy. Let's go. All right, so let's dive into the first game up here. I've got on the where are we at here? Carolina and Atlanta. Let's go through some starter sit options here for this game. We talked yesterday about DJ Moore. Feels like he's a pretty safe option this week, given the matchup. You had mentioned AJ Terrell being out. But let me ask you about a couple of these other options here. What do you think about like Donta Foreman, or like in that format that you had mentioned, like in a 16-team league, very deep, starting a lot of players? Would you start, like a Terrace Marshall or a Shi Smith in those formats?
Yeah, so I've liked Shi Smith. He got a good amount of playing time early on in the season when Baker Mayfield was there. He started to see a few targets. The problem now, though, is with PJ Walker, he didn't see really anything, and he hasn't really done anything with the opportunity that he's gotten. But we've seen Terrace Marshall over the last 3 weeks start to play a pretty significant amount of snaps and also get some targets. So in those deeper leagues, 16-teamers like we're talking about, I think Terrace Marshall out of the two would be the guy that I would target. Donta Foreman is a smash play. Like even in 12-team formats, I've got him where he's plugging in as a flex in a couple positions because Chuba Hubbard's out. You saw what he was able to do last week, even sharing carries with Chuba. And dare I say, he could get a couple catches this week. You just never know. Who is it? Blackshear, I think, is the backup to him right now. So Donta Foreman is going to own that backfield. So I think he's absolutely got to be in your lineup this week.
I agree. In those deeper formats, I would say Terrace Marshall is the preferred option over Shi Smith. I still don't know if I love those tight ends in Ian Thomas or Tommy Tremble. Tremble did have a touchdown last week. Maybe he's live for that again in week 8. Raheem Blackshear, he's a guy that I added this week, but not anyone that I'm starting. Even in like deeper formats, like 14-team or even 20-team formats, I'm not starting him this week. And no pulse for me for PJ Walker, any formats.
Yeah. No.
Agree?
I mean, super flex. It's a plausibility. He's your super flex. Maybe you got injuries. Justin Herbert. Herbert's on bye or whatever.
Right.
Mahomes.
Well,
and you need that.
I'll ask you this. Let's keep it simple. Marcus Mariota or PJ Walker this week?
Marcus Mariota.
There you go, Marcus Mariota. Yeah. I mean, and that's digging deep. That's digging to the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, and from Atlanta, Mariota's the only guy I'm interested in starting. I'm not if I can avoid Drake London and Kyle Pitts, Olamide Zaccheaus, Algier, Huntley, all those guys, I am not putting them in my lineup this week. Even in deep leagues, I'm probably trying to avoid it at all costs for any player not named Marcus Mariota.
Well, let's take a look. Let's run down the rankings here. I'm curious to see some names that you would start over Kyle Pitts this week. Then let's get into some Kyle Pitts. So you have Kyle Pitts at tight end 7 in our rankings. In comparison, our buddy Dave Heilman has him at 14. I have him at 10. And Emerson Beery has him at 14. So you are the highest on him, sir.
Man.
In PPR formats.
Man.
All right. So this week, Kyle Pitts or Dalton Schultz?
Dalton Schultz.
Evan Ingram or Kyle Pitts?
Kyle Pitts.
Okay. Well, Evan Ingram already played. I guess that's not a good one. Irv Smith or Kyle Pitts?
Kyle Pitts.
Okay. So there you go. Harrison Bryant or Kyle Pitts? Set tight end position.
Kyle Pitts. God, no, I gotta go. So, okay, I have to go Harrison Bryant because in a league where I have both of them, I put Harrison Bryant in over him in my tight end position.
Well, there you
that
go.
may be a little bit of the homer in me, though. Don't go do that in your leagues.
That's true. Brad is a big Browns fan.
Don't do that. It is definitely Pitts.
Last one: Cole Kmet or Kyle Pitts?
Pitts.
All right, one more. Sorry, Darren Waller or Kyle Pitts? Darren Waller.
If Waller plays, I think I'm going Waller because that team is just they're prime. They're prime. I think that game is going to be a high scoring game. We talked about that before we went live. So I think I'd put Waller ahead of him. And I really hope, because you're looking at my rankings most likely right now, I hope I'm not full of crap based on my rankings.
Yeah, go fix your rankings. Hey, don't get me wrong. I'm going to be fixing mine while we're live. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Like I'm getting everything updated right now. We're making picks. We're going through all this live. We're giving our live reactions to everything, our picks, our lineups, and everything. So let's move over to the Atlanta side of things here. You said you're only starting Mariota. it does sound like you will start Kyle Pitts in some formats, we'll say. I still like Drake London here. Somebody's got to catch the ball. I feel like this week in particular could be a nice week. The Carolina defense has been Swiss cheese. I'm not saying it's going to be a coming out party. Like, I'm not saying he's going to score 2 touchdowns, but he would be someone that I'd be interested in. Maybe targeting some props. Maybe I'll pull up his numbers. If he's sitting at like a friendly like 3 or 4.5, I think this might be the week to do it. I mean, it's a matchup where I think that Atlanta can score points, and they've been scoring points actually pretty consistently. They're top 10 in the league in points scored right now. So somebody's got to do it.
It's just been Mariota and his legs.
And make sure the running backs, Algier, Huntley, and Avery Williams have kind of all just pitched in with Cordell Patterson gone. So I'm assuming one of those guys can find pay dirt as well. But those are honestly the guys that I trust the least, is because, like you just said, Mariota is going to steal action with his legs, whether it's in the red zone or just rushing upside in general. So I still think that London and Pitts are a good guys, or are a good pair of guys to roll out this week. I'm going to try and pull up their props here now. In the game overall, who are you taking? It's a pretty close one. We've got let me see here. I just had it up. +4 spread in favor of the Falcons. They're at home. The Falcons are in favored. Was it 2-1 -210 on the money line at WinBet, and the total is 41 points. I like the over here. I think that's the safest pick. Like you'd said, we talked about it a little bit before, but what do you think about the spread and the game winner here?
Yeah, I think the Falcons win and cover. The Panthers are going to be riding high after that, but I think they're going to come back down to reality with no starting running back, third string quarterback in. There's just too many things going against them. And I think Atlanta kind of pounds the rock and slows the game down a little bit and ends up winning pretty handily, I think.
Yeah, I like them to win and cover as well. I do have the odds up for yardage. Drake London, just to get 41 yards, -117. To get 51 yards, it's paying plus money at +119. I like that. I like those a lot. Kyle Pitts, 35 plus yards, -118. And if you really want to keep it simple, London just to get 30 is -270, and Pitts to get at least 25 is -295. You could put those two together. Those are really low numbers. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We got our first question in the chat. JBZ keeping it easy. We got Olave versus Mostert. That's a good one. Full point PPR in his flex spot. That's a toughie, but I feel like, the matchup is best for Mostert. But as far as like wide receiver volume this week, I think Olave is going to be potentially top 5. That's really tough.
Yeah, he's going to get a ton of volume, right? Landry's out. Michael Thomas is out. They're playing Las Vegas without possibly Jonathan Abram. We don't know if he's going to be healthy enough to go or not. He was sick this week, so we'll kind of see how that pans out closer to kickoff. But yeah, the volume is definitely going to be there for Olave.
And what's also interesting is that Juwan Johnson's also questionable. Adam Troutman is questionable. You could have a game literally where you're rolling out Kamara, Olave, and Taysom Hill as the starters, and like Taysom Hill has to legitimately play, the tight end for most of the game. It could be a Taysom Hill week, and I think that's the only thing that would concern me off of Olave in favor of Mostert, is that I feel like Mostert still has a very safe floor to score a touchdown or even 2. The Detroit rushing defense has been their Achilles heel. Second most fantasy points allowed to the running back position. That's a lot of upside for me.
Yeah, I think Mostert is, even with the volume that we both kind of believe Olave is going to go into, I think I'm leaning Mostert here because even with full PPR, he saw a good number of targets, I think 4 or 5 last week. Plus, he's getting all of the running back work. I mean, Chase Edmonds is an afterthought in that offense in its entirety, and they're playing the Lions. Like, this is you got to find a way to get Mostert in your lineup. And I would actually I'd like to know who your wide receivers are if Olave is a flex option right now. Because this dude has played lights out when he's been on the field. So, unless you've got some really good studs at the wide receiver position, he might be a starter.
Yeah, that's a good point. I got to imagine that, you have options, especially a wide receiver. It's a really deep position. So
this is a good team if these are your flex options.
It's not a crazy world to imagine. I mean, with Mostert and Olave, given their ADP, as long as you hit on your guys ahead of them,
Yep.
Says he's got JT, Fournette, Amon, Ra, and CD. It's pretty solid.
Yeah,
pretty solid.
And Olave and Mostert give you good floor plays for both. Neither of them are going to goose share anything like that. So you're in a pretty good spot. If one of these had a higher upside than the other, better upside, lower floor versus, I might go with the floor play.
To be perfectly honest, I might be in favor of Olave over Amon Ra, though. I think that might be the play there.
It is possible.
Well, he's coming back from concussion. He did practice in full on Friday, but he's been limited most of the week. You take one good hit, similar situation to last week.
Well, and Miami's really bad against the tight end too, so they may feed TJ Hawkinson a little bit more. You're not really sure, but I don't know if I could put Olave in over Amon Ra. But
I think I feel safer over it. And I believe I made that pick yesterday in my battle royale picks, because I took Olave as my first wide receiver. I went Derrick Henry, CMC as my first two picks. This is the underdog battle royale. And then I went Olave and DJ Moore as my receivers. So I have a lot of trust in Olave this week. If you see, Juwan Johnson or Adam Troutman fall out of the lineup, I think that's a really easy move to make.
Yeah, the volume is definitely going to be there for Olave. You might actually be swaying me a little bit to put him in over Amon Ra, because I just look like, the last two games, even when he played against New England, he had 4 targets for 18 yards.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think it's a 13 or 12 catch week for Amon Ra. You know what I mean? Even up against Miami, who I think has, been favorable still to the wide receiver position. I still think that with Swift there healthy, he's going to get a lot of usage. You had mentioned the stars aligning for Hawkinson in this matchup. You see Josh Reynolds healthy. He's actually, not questionable coming into a week. I think he's still the second best wide receiver statistically on the roster right now. If you look at like yardage, A-dot, et cetera, I think he might even be up there with touchdowns.
And he should. So it looks like, all right, because he's running out of the slot. So their slot corner is Justin Bethel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. You may have me swaying now. I may put Olave in over Amon Ra.
If you got him, I think that's a really easy one to make. The volume's going to be there for him. You're not going to trust Marquez Callaway, Traquan Smith, even Mark Ingram to steal the show this week. I don't think,
No, they have been a lot smarter with Alvin Kamara. I think part of the reason is because of some of these trade rumblings that they're talking about, asking for a CMC like package for him. Maybe they're just trying to showcase him for that. But either way, I don't care. Feed the guy the ball. He's probably your best offensive player anyway. So I do think a lot of those targets end up with Alvin Kamara. But like you said, it's Traquan Smith and Marquez Callaway are not taking targets away from Olave. So
exactly. He's a guy that I could easily see clear 12 plus targets this week.
Yeah, I could buy that.
All right.
Yep.
Next up, we've got the Cowboys and the Bears. Bears. The Bears. Let's start with the start sit questions here. We'll start with Chicago. I'm starting Fields at this point. The safe rushing floor has been shown the past couple of weeks. They're setting him up with quarterback design runs. I feel like, it's kind of similar to Atlanta. He's still the safest option in the offense, at least as far as, scoring touchdowns and just total fantasy point volume, because of the fact you have the issues with Montgomery and Herbert kind of eating into their workload. Those would be the 3 safest assets to start from the Bears. I feel like if you have Mooney, you probably have better options to start. And the same thing goes for Cole Kmet. So those are my 3 most viable options here. I am in some format starting Montgomery and Herbert on the same roster. So like that's just how much I'm not scared of them potentially hurting me, I should say.
Yeah, it's tough because they're going up against Dallas, who has a really good run defense. So, and I look at the when you see how the Bears played, there were a lot more of those design runs. They're gonna run the ball because that's where they've been most effective the last few weeks. And I think Dallas is gonna look at saying, okay, we're not gonna let you beat us on the ground.
Right.
Now, with that being said, I also think we saw some of the weaknesses of Micah Parsons against the Philadelphia Eagles a couple weeks ago, where he was really taken out of that game, the way that the Eagles kind of run their offense. And now Chicago's kind of running their offense very similar to that. So I think there's a world where they kind of neutralize Micah Parsons because of that, which gives kind of some running lanes to Justin Fields. But like you said, I don't know that I'm really looking to play anybody outside of the run game in Chicago. And even then, I've got Khalil Herbert in a couple spots. I found a way to get him on the bench because I'm not really confident in the run game against the Cowboys. So, but so I'm a little concerned, we'll say, a little concerned. I've got Herbert at 36 in my rankings this week. So,
what do you think about Montgomery, though? Do you think that he's a lock starter then? Because I feel like they're both in a similar situation.
I would prefer him in my flex. Because I do think he's going to end up getting a little bit of that passing work close to the line of scrimmage. But outside of that, I just don't see much happening for the Bears today.
So in this lineup, I'll go over some examples, to kind of show you guys where I'm starting Herbert, over some other people. So would you start Herbert or Damian Harris?
Oh God, Herbert.
Damian Harris hasn't had a pulse for weeks.
Yeah, I've got Damian Harris. I need to change it. I've got Harris at 25. And I've got Herbert at 36, which needs to change.
Harris's last 2 starts, 3 for 8, 4 for 11. He's averaging less than 3 yards a carry.
He's bad.
Can't really do it, right? Khalil Herbert over Marquise Goodwin and Noah Brown.
No, 100%. Yeah.
100%. Exactly. Yeah. Boston Scott.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. Olamide Zaccheaus, Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson first week back.
I wouldn't want to play him the first week back, but I do like Van Jefferson a lot.
Okay.
And I think the Rams have been waiting for him.
they need him. Have no disagreement there whatsoever. No disagreement. Yeah. But first week back, wouldn't feel comfortable doing it.
Right.
Nick Westbrook, Akine.
No. Yeah. No.
Yeah. Russ Gage out. Yeah. That's what I'm left with.
Yeah. All right, that's fair.
I also started Zay Jones. He's got a catch for 7 yards, so it's a 2-5 roster. Let's be real. it's going nowhere but the draft.
Oh man. Yeah.
All right, we got some more questions in the chat. We got Ryan H. Hi, pick 2 standard league. Christian Kirk. He's already played.
It's got to be Curtis Samuel because Debo's not playing.
Well. Oh, I was talking about Kirk. Kirk's playing right now.
He did say Kirk's already. Well, somebody else in the chat said Kirk's already playing. Yeah.
So we'll go with what you have left. We've already talked about Goodwin a bit. Dubes has some nice upside this week with Lazard out. Brandon Ayuk, I guess pretty decent. Standard option. He's kind of an all-purpose yards guy. Gets carries. Gets catches. I got to feel that maybe Samuel and Dubes here have the highest ceiling, excluding Kirk from the conversation because he's playing right now.
Yeah, I'm a Samuel and Ayuk here. So Curtis Samuel with Jahan Dotson being out, I think he's going to continue to see some of the volume that he's seen. And Taylor Heineke, he targets the wide receivers. It's really working out. I think that team looks better with him than it did with Carson Wentz outside of the first couple weeks. So I think Curtis Samuel is a guy. I'm not trusting the Green Bay Packers right now. I'm just not going to do it.
Right.
I can't. And we already talked a little bit about how DK and Tyler Lockett are planning on playing this week. So Goodwin is kind of the third or fourth fiddle there. Brandon Ayuk without Debo Samuel is going to be the primary wide receiver target there. Now, I know George Kittle's looked really good the last 3 or 4 weeks. They've got Christian McCaffrey now, but that's just going to help the offense. And I think Ayuk is the guy that we've seen make some big plays as of late. So I'm going Curtis Samuel and Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, I really don't. I don't hate it. I think Dubes has shown he's going to be involved in the offense. Most weeks he's still getting those 4 to 6 targets. So yeah, I can go either way with that one. Like you mentioned, Debo being out definitely props up his upside, but I think it could also be a big George Kittle week and also a big coming out party for CMC.
Yep.
With that being said, I don't think Jimmy's a bad option this week to start against the Rams. We got G Beezy back in the chat asking Wan'Dale Robinson versus Josh Reynolds. Deep league, wide receiver 3, full point PPR. I'm going Wan'Dale Robinson here. He's slowly become the best receiver available for the Giants. And, the targets are there since he's been healthy. The yardage has been there. I think that he offers a much safer floor. Josh Reynolds, I've been banging the Josh Reynolds drum, since he's been booming through the start of the season, but he hasn't shown up the past couple of weeks. He's been dealing with an on and off hamstring injury, on and off the injury report list. Just not someone that I feel, as safe with. All that being said, I'm starting him in plenty of spaces this week, but I don't have Wan'Dale Robinson. If I did, I'd start him over him. I like Wan'Dale here.
Yeah, I like Wan'Dale for a couple reasons. One, they're playing Seattle, who just gives up a ton of points. Josh Reynolds, not only is he not really shown up the last couple weeks, but he's also going up a pretty solid Miami secondary. I'm not saying they're great, but their cornerbacks are pretty good in Justin Bethel and Xavier Howard. So I'm steering away from Josh Reynolds in most places if I can stay away from it. And Wan'Dale Robinson has shown that he's kind of the primary, outside of Saquon, he is the guy that the New York Giants really like. They just moved Kadarius Toney. I think they would have done that even if Wan'Dale hadn't have played well in the last few weeks, but he really hasn't. It gave him even more confidence. Kenny Galladay's still out. He is the guy. Daniel Bellinger's out. So he's definitely this, I think, even in a non-deep league, there's a couple 12-teamers where I've got him in a flex spot. So,
okay. All right, let's get back to the Cowboys and the Bears. Moving over to the Cowboys, I gotta feel really good about starting Tony Pollard this week. Like the week of all weeks to start Tony Pollard. He could be a top 10 running back this week. The Bears rushing defense, bad, very, very bad. It's definitely the worst aspect of their defense. I know everyone's concerned because they just gave up Robert Quinn, but Robert Quinn wasn't really, holding his weight, or pulling his weight this year. He wasn't
from a run defense perspective.
Exactly.
So don't be like a great pass rusher.
Yeah, don't overreact from that. I think that their defense is going to be doing similar things to what we've seen still through the start of the season here. But Tony Pollard is a smash. I think Dak Prescott, if you have him, smoke him if you got him type of situation. Like, it's kind of a hard player to get off of. He's a top 10 quarterback. While the Bears secondary has been very good, it's been the best aspect of their defense, and they've held wide receivers and quarterbacks in check in terms of fantasy. Dak Prescott, still should provide you a relatively safe floor. I'm still starting him over, say, a Geno Smith or a Jimmy Garoppolo, who I think are both viable options this week. I think that they can go out and, have good starts, be reliable fantasy options. I would still start Dak over those guys. Like there's just a margin of skill set there between the three parties. So how do you feel about rolling out CeeDee Lamb this week? Obviously, I feel like given his rostership, where you took him, where he aligns with the rest of your wide receiver assets, you probably have to start him. But I don't feel great about it this week. And is there another pass catcher here that you feel comfortable starting?
I am on the complete opposite end of the spectrum as you. So I agree with Tony Pollard, everything you said about Tony Pollard. Dak, I've got at number 5 for quarterbacks this week. So hear me out on this. Number 1, the Cowboys took a lot of shit around Dak Prescott's performance last week, right? A lot of people talking about what are we doing? The offense doesn't look good. So I got curious. I said, okay, how many times has Dak Prescott gone out and thrown for, we'll say 220, 225 yards? And what happened the week after with Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator? 7 times that's happened. 5 of them, here are the numbers out of 5 of those 7 that he came back with. 302 yards and 3 touchdowns. 375 yards and 2 touchdowns, 330 yards and 4 touchdowns, 463 yards and 2 touchdowns, and 355 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, the other 2 were, very similar performances around that 230 yards and a touchdown or 2. Not great performances, but not killing you. I think, Kellen, this is a get right game for Dak Prescott. I think Kellen Moore knows that. They don't have Zeke, who's done all the red zone work for them. He's been kind of the bell cow. He's been carrying the ball a ton. Without him, I think they're going to lean on Tony Pollard a little bit more, but Dak's going to throw the ball today, and I'm absolutely loving the Chicago Bears defense against CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup and Noah Brown and Dalton Schultz and Tony Pollard out of the backfield. I'm ready. I'm rolling. I'm taking the overs on anything that is Dak Prescott this week. Right. As silly as that may sound, maybe I'm crazy, but I think he is absolutely going to smash this week.
I've got him at quarterback 7, so I'm right there with you. Top 10 option. Like I said, he's a hard guy to get off of.
Yep.
Gives you very few reasons not to start him. If that's the case, hey, I'll take every bit of that production. But like I said, Bears defense, their secondary, that's where it's been at. I was leading that question because I also wanted to ask you about just the receivers for the Dallas Cowboys. Like, who is the receiver of the future for these guys behind CeeDee Lamb? Like, are they not even on the roster? Like, who do you like out of
they paid Gallup. It has to be Gallup. I mean, they gave him too much money for him to not end up being that second option, right? And he's coming off an ACL, right? Wide receivers coming off of an ACL, they typically don't perform that great the next season, right? So now I'm not trying to say, you got to give him a complete pass, because no, he hasn't looked great, with his 2 targets and 0 catches last week, but the offense didn't look great last week either. So, you give him a little bit of a pass plus the ACL. But I think Gallup is absolutely the answer as the wide receiver 2 in that offense. I think they have to re-sign Dalton Schultz. I just think he's an integral part to that offense. When he produces, they really play very well. They look good offensively. So I think Dalton Schultz is another guy in the long term that they need to work out a deal with to bring him in and kind of hold him.
Well, this is also a team that gave Zeke Elliott way too much money. So it could just be another misevaluation in overpaying Gallup. I was wanting Cavante Turbin love, but that's all right. It's fine.
I can't get behind that.
Or Jalen Tolbert,
Dude, so
Sami Fehiko.
What is happening with Jalen Tolbert? This dude was a high day 2 draft pick, and here he is getting just shit playing time. He was a healthy scratch for weeks. Like, it's just not been good for him. So I don't know if it's an attitude issue, if he's just having trouble picking up the playbook, or what it is. I'm starting to, I've got him not in a lot in dynasty leagues, but a couple spots, and he's on a taxi squad. I'm starting to like, is this dude drop worthy in the off season at this point? Like, what's going on with him?
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't drop him in dynasty. I would, if you have
in the off season, it might come to that though, right? Because you got to clean that taxi squad out to do new draft picks, and he just hasn't done anything to warrant a roster spot right now.
Noah Brown's looked pretty good with Dak.
He has.
Dak seems to look his way. I think he might be another interesting piece there. And Noah Brown
looked good with him last week, not the week before though, right?
2
weeks ago he didn't do great
because he was hurt. Well, 2 weeks ago I don't think Dak was in.
Yeah, you're right. Last week
to start the season, when Dak was healthy, he was kind of the guy, behind CeeDee Lamb. So could be another interesting one to keep an eye on. We got Bears on a 10-point spread. Dallas is like minus 500 to win at home, and the over is now up to 42.5. I got it at 41. Love the over here. Bears cover, and I mean, I guess I can give Cowboys the win, but I'm taking Bear down country. Let's go.
Ooh,
plus 375.
I'm gonna go Bears win, but I don't know if I'm gonna go Bears win and more than 10. I'm gonna say they cover also.
Well, yeah, if they win, they cover plus 10. All right, let's go.
No, I'm sorry, not Bears. The Cowboys. Did I say Bears? The Cowboys win and Cowboys cover. Sorry, the Bears are not winning today. I'm sorry.
No, the Cowboys are not covering. That just ain't happening. 10 points.
We'll 10 points. We'll see. It's like I said, this could be that get right game for Dak, and if it is, you bet.
Ouch.
Pucker
up.
That Cowboys defense is going to pin them ears back, and Justin Fields is going to have a rough day. Yeah.
All right. Next up, we've got Miami and Detroit. Start them if you got them. I mean, I'm not starting Chase Edmonds. I'm not starting Mike Gesicki, but Mostert, Hill, Waddle, Tua, keeping it simple there, right?
Yeah, I might, depending on my tight end situation, I might be okay with Gesicki. Detroit is really bad against the tight end as well. So he may end up getting some opportunities there. I don't think he's a first or second option, obviously, this week, but the tight end landscape, we've talked about it all year, has been complete garbage, right? It has not been good. Excuse me. So I'm okay with Gesicki. If you're trying to stream a tight end, he'd be a guy I'd try to look for on the waiver wire.
Yeah, if they announce Durham Smythe out, or Smythe, I don't know.
Yep.
If they announce that he's out, then I would be more comfortable with it. But if they're both playing, I don't know what the deal is there. I've seen weeks where he gets less snaps. I don't know what the deal is there. With Detroit, not digging too deep into the wide receiver room, but again, I think Josh Reynolds is a live option. There are plenty of names ahead of him that are going to be better starts this week, but I do think in some deeper formats, his name should be live, not dipping into Khalif Raymond. What about Jamal Williams? You have DeAndre Swift healthy. Jamal Williams kind of been the star of the Lions offense in the red zone here. Does he still have a pulse this week in week 8?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's not like what we saw last year, right? You come out last year, the first couple weeks, Jamal Williams was just destroying. And then he fell off, right? And the Lions said, we're giving DeAndre Swift the ball. Jamal Williams, you're an afterthought. This year, we saw the same thing, right? First couple weeks, Jamal Williams smash. And I said, look, we saw this last year. Don't overreact. DeAndre Swift is the guy, and I do believe DeAndre Swift is the guy, but they never stopped giving Jamal Williams opportunity, even when DeAndre Swift was healthy. So I do think you still see a good amount, 10 to 15 touches for Jamal Williams, which is a flex-worthy play in those deeper leagues, especially when you're looking at bye weeks and so on and so forth. So I do think he's worth a look. Not a guy that I think is going to have a huge game. I think this is a DeAndre Swift statement game because I think he wanted to try to come back last week and they held him out another week. And I think that upset him a little bit. He was a full participant all week this week. So I think he's good to go and going to get the bulk of those carries.
Fair enough. Just wanted to check in at halftime here with the Jaguars and the Broncos. Your boy ETN's 11 for 94.
I love it.
I
love it.
Yeah. He ruined James Robinson, and now he's ruining Trevor Lawrence. He has more production than Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence has just 80 passing yards.
I'm telling you, the surprising thing for me with Trevor Lawrence is that they're not using his legs as much. I really expected
he had 2
them
rushing
to
touchdowns a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, but that wasn't. I expected more of a little bit of a design run opportunities for him, and that's just not, a little more rollout, play action, and he's not doing a lot of that. He's not rolling out of the pocket a whole lot. So I did expect to see that a little bit more this season, but I still think he's a great buy candidate in Dynasty if people are still kind of swaying away from him.
Jermichael Hasty has 5 touches for 2 yards.
Meanwhile, ETN and his 11 for 90.
It
just continues to make a statement.
ETN has over 100 all-purpose yards because he has 12 receiving yards and 2 catches.
I love it.
Yeah, he's over 100 total yards for 13 touches in the first half. Jolly old London, quite friendly to Mr. ETN.
Oh goodness.
All right, so let's see. Jared Goff, what are we doing with him?
I think he's start worthy. I do. I mean, with Swift,
I'm starting Malik Willis over him. Full disclosure.
Oh, yeah, I can't do that.
I'm 1-6. It's called a tank.
Oh, all right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. No, I think Jared Goff plays better and has better fantasy numbers when DeAndre Swift is on the field. DeAndre Swift is back this week. Now, I'm not saying Jared Goff is a top 10 quarterback or anything. I think I have him at 13. I've got him at 13 right now. So he's not a starting quarterback if you don't need to, right? But I think he's going to be fine this week. He's not going to tank you. He's not going to win you a week or anything like that.
Not going to hurt you.
Yep.
Not going for -4, you say.
Yeah, no.
Well, he can do whatever he wants. He's going to sit on my bench. I'm trying to lose some games here.
I just gave a guy some shit about that because he's got a couple guys who were deemed out in his starting lineup, and he's 0-7.
He can't be doing that now.
Like, dude, this is not okay. Not okay. And he gave me some shit about a trade offer I sent him to. I'd be curious your perspective on. Maybe we'll get to it when we get to the Arizona
I was just about to share a trade with you because in that same league where I'm starting Willis, I traded Matthew Stafford, Hayden Hurst, and Zay Jones for Justin Fields.
Matthew Stafford, Hayden Hurst, and Zay Jones for Justin Fields. Man, you are a homer. You're like I am. I mean, don't
for what I'm giving up. That team already has, what is it? Mark Andrews, Irv Smith.
Yeah.
Fine at tight end. My wide receivers, it's just not their year. I have Mike Thomas. I have Calvin Ridley. I've got DJ Moore. Those are kind of waiting in the wings options. Kadarius Toney's also on that roster. He just got a nice boost. It's just not a team that's ready to win right now. It has Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara too.
Yeah, my issue is it feels like you're selling low on Matthew Stafford, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm done with
the problem I have with Justin Fields is not necessarily that I don't think he can be a decent starter the rest of this year. It's I just don't know what this new regime is going to want to do, right?
Right.
So let's say the Bears end up, 6-11, and they're picking number 10 overall. They may potentially see an opportunity to buy one of these three quarterbacks in the draft. And
potentially
they haven't really proven to me through play calling and personnel that they even really want Justin Fields to succeed. So that volatility, I just can't buy him in Dynasty right now unless it's cheap. And I just don't know that is cheap, especially the way that Hayden Hurst most likely is going to end up with a contract in Cincinnati, and Matthew Stafford, who we hope he gets better. The offensive line there is so bad, though.
It feels like this could be it though for Stafford. And if it's not this year, it's next year. And on that team specifically, the goal is to get off of old quarterbacks, and my starters were Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford. So if I'm getting off of old quarterbacks, I feel really good about that. And I still feel like the Bears, I really hope that they still roll with Fields, because to me it's just the complete lack of playmakers. Like I like Darnell Mooney, don't get me wrong, but he's not a physical presence on the field. Like stand him next to Ty Conklin. You know what I mean? Just like compare him to some of the pass catchers in this league right now. Like he is not a big target, right? Like he is not a guy that can just clean up for you over the middle, run those a little bit more dangerous routes, right? Like he is more of a slot type of guy. Dude, like, come on. Like you and me could scheme up against the Bears offense right now if they're trying to go on a passing play, right? If they're going to pass, like it's not that incredibly difficult to scheme against them. And what I've seen from them through the start of this season is, all right, we don't know what we're doing because we can't pass with them. We have to figure it out. And they figured it out. I mean, as long as they set him up to run the ball, and they include more play action, and they do not show their hand, if they come out 4 or 5 wide, you know how to defend them. You know what I mean? Yeah. You run a quarterback spy zone defense, and you leave it up to Fields to make a mistake because he doesn't have guys that are gonna go make a play. This offseason, they'll have the cap, they'll have the opportunity to do that. I do believe that I think that we're gonna fall off of 10. Because this is a team that is playing with that mental attitude, and they want to go out there and give it their all. You don't see Justin Fields talking like, "Oh shucks, yeah, let's pack it in."
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they're not that type of team right now, and I think their schedule is more favorable than people think. Not saying they're going to the playoffs by any means, but I think the team is going to continue to build around them. And I still
and that trade could be one of those looks bad today, but looks great in a couple weeks. Right.
Oh, I don't need it to look good in a couple of weeks. I need it to look good to start the next season. I don't care.
That's what I'm saying. Like right now, it could be one of those, everybody looks at it like, oh, like, why would you do that? And then the end of the season, they're like, oh my God, that Matthew Stafford's not worth anything. Nobody wants him. Right. And so
I traded 2 bench players for next season and an aging quarterback for a starter. That's as simple as it is. And if I want to, I can still roll out Aaron Rodgers and Jared Goff next season, and I have Malik Willis on that roster. So it's
Jared Goff. He will be the starting quarterback for Detroit next year.
Well, I'll have a starter. I'll have one.
Yeah.
All right. Let's. Well, what was your trade? We went a little deep there.
So Situation where I'm like middle of the road. I might sneak into the playoffs, but I lost Marquise Brown. And I found a team that is looking to get younger, trying to move some picks. So I offered Marquise Brown and Tyler Algier for what is likely probably the 102, maybe the 103, and got completely laughed at.
Well, I would do that trade, but I mean, I don't think it's completely laughable. I think if I'm giving up the pick, I want more.
Yeah.
I want more than Marquise Brown, but I think it's a good starting scenario.
That's what I thought. This guy was what? Let me read you the exact. This is what got me going.
What I would respond with to that pick is you just also giving up like either your first or your second, and just do a pick swap.
He said, you should have enough self-respect not to even send that kind of offer. It's some backhanded, sneaky bullshit.
Sneaky? It's only sneaky if you accept
you're
it,
an
pal.
effing coward. Like,
coward.
Like, what? Like, what are you? First of all, I said, dude, bro, you need to chill, man. you need to chill out.
Have a cup of Joe, buddy.
Yeah, like, good Lord. I don't know what crawled up your ass this morning, but something did. So, yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe there was a lot of back and forth around DeAndre Hopkins and what the future for Marquise Brown is. And I just don't see a world where the Arizona Cardinals give up a first-round draft pick for a guy that's not going to be involved in the offense. DeAndre Hopkins, 31. I'm not saying they move on from him next year, but his contract does get to where they save money by moving on from him instead of, losing money.
Right.
So I don't think that happens next season. That's not what I'm saying, but you just never know at this point, right? If they end up shit season, then they may choose to move on from DeAndre Hopkins. Who knows? But it was shocking to me that I got that response over it. It's like,
who would you rather have going forward? Who do you think? Who would you rather have going forward? Marquise Brown and Tyler Algier, those two options, or Mitch Trubisky and DeAndre Hopkins going forward?
Oh, Marquise Brown.
Right. I got Mitch and D-Hop. I traded those two for the 101 to get Breece Hall this past offseason.
Ooh, nice. See?
Right. So it's like it's not that it's that's why I'm saying like it's not that far off, but if I'm the other guy, I would just do a pick swap.
Yeah,
if I was
throw me your second on top of it. Well, okay, I can
right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just being a dick. I mean, but hey, this is what fantasy football's about.
I know, right? Yeah, you got baseball players punching each other on the ball field over fantasy football.
That was awesome. That was awesome. I mean, I was telling Brad earlier, I traded a whole haul of picks. Like I gave away my whole future for Patrick Mahomes yesterday. Fuck those picks. I don't care. I'm feeling great. I'm going to the Super Bowl. Zay Jones has a second catch. Woo! 2 for 11.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, we're humming along here, slowly but surely. Arizona, Minnesota. Minnesota. What do we got here? I think this game is going to be electric. Murray, Benjamin. You have James Conner out again, firing up D-Hop, firing up Rondale Moore, Zach Ertz, not so much Robbie Anderson. I'm going to be really mad if Greg Dortch scores a touchdown this week, which he might do. Son of a bitch. But yeah, I think you feel really good about all the options in this game. I feel like Adam Thielen's a live option, KJ Osborne in deep formats, Irv Smith kind of coming around for tight ends. Definitely a key guy off a bye week. Never getting off Dalvin Cook and Kirk Cousins and Kyler Murray, both in really good positions this week.
Yep. Yeah, I think you pretty much start everybody here. I think
who do you feel the least comfortable with?
The least comfortable, probably Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen is probably the guy I'm looking to find another option to get in my lineup right now. I think Rondale Moore has a good game. Obviously, Hopkins has one. Minnesota's been they gave up 40 fantasy points to Jalen Hurts. His best game of the year. I think you see very similar type of production out of Kyler Murray. I think you see him smash the running game a little bit and also get DeAndre Hopkins involved early and often. And then you'll be able to play into that Rondale Moore, close to, short yardage passes, get him in space a little bit. So I think Kyler has a little bit of a get right game. I'm not saying Arizona is going to win the game, but I do think they look better offensively this week.
Let's see the spread here in this one. Gotta be tight. 4 points. I've got Minnesota -4, Minnesota -210, and the number's at 48.5. I kind of like the over here. I kind of like the over here.
Yep, I like the over. Both teams' defenses are not good. This is what I think should be the highest over under of the week, but it's not. I think that Miami Detroit game is. Yeah, it is. This is a game I think ends up probably the highest scoring game of the week. Between this and the Vegas New Orleans games, those are the two games that I'm looking at as just they're definitely the over, I feel like. So
all right. We are both in agreement there. Let's see. What do we got up next here? Greg Dulcich just made a nice catch, 18 yards. Raiders and Saints next up here. Feeling pretty good, but we need to get some info on Devontae. We need a Devontae Adams update. Where is LV? There's LV. Let's see. Devontae Adams.
I saw he was playing and that Darren Waller is going to test it pregame before they make a decision.
I'm not trusting Darren Waller.
That's the last I saw about him.
Yeah, I'm not trusting Darren Waller. What do you think about Hunter Renfro's prospects this week? I mean, Adams sounds like he's going to play, but he's sick. You know, illness not related to COVID.
Yep.
Not feeling well. Jordan game, Hunter Renfro game. What do we think?
It's so weird to me that, and I get it, Devontae Adams is a completely different hemisphere than Hunter Renfro. But the chemistry that Derek Carr built with Darren Waller and Hunter Renfro over the last few seasons has basically completely gone away. Yeah, I mean, Hunter Renfro is not getting looked. Hell, Hunter Renfro is not even getting that much playing time anymore. So it's very, very weird. Mac Hollins is a guy that is seeing more opportunity than Hunter Renfro. So I feel like he's kind of a landmine right now. Like would you be opposed to dropping Hunter Renfro in a 12-team redraft short, let's say 5 bench spots league?
Oh, 5 bench spots? That's a really 5 short. Bench spots. Yeah, I guess. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people available though, in that type of format. And then people are going to look at that and try to pick Hunter Renfro up because of what he did last year, and he's just a landmine for other people. Well, and I feel like he's taken up a roster spot that you're not using right now. I feel like in that scenario, you're rostering him under the narrative that he's a handcuff, essentially, to Devontae Adams, because let's say Devontae Adams was out of this game, are you just like, whoa? Hunter Renfro, instant starter. Got to lock him in your lineup.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Damn.
I really don't.
Well, I'm starting a lot of Hunter Renfro this week because I lost Mike Williams and Breece Hall. So let's run through some of these options here. So I've got him in my flex. So we've got a bevy of options. Let's pull it up. The running backs, not good. Deion Jackson, Ty Johnson, Jeff Wilson, Kenny Gainwell.
God. I guess you got to play Hunter Renfro.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, the only guy that I would even contemplate, which he wouldn't end up in there, would be Jeff Wilson. He'd be the only other guy out of all of those.
We can't do it.
That I would look at like, mate. Nah, I'm not going to do that. I'd at least think for a second about it. The other guys, there's not even thinking about. I'm not a big projection guy. Like, oh, this guy's projection is this or this guy's, so I got to start him and bench him. No. But just for the sake of the disrespect that Sleeper is giving Jeff Wilson right now, they've got him at 0.36. So that's ridiculous. Just like I know it's like, what the hell are you doing, Sleeper? Like, come on, like that is fucking rude as shit. Anyways, wide receiver options: Marquise Goodwin, KJ Osborne, and that's it at wide receiver. But with wide receiver, I'll give you tight end too. Harrison Bryant and Juwan Johnson. Those were the ones that I was kind of like flirting with over him. But right now I have him in over those two, and Osborne and Goodwin. If Metcalf was out, I would start
Goodwin for sure, but I am starting Goodwin in some other sneaky spots. So I don't want to overexpose myself to him. Like,
Well, I did look a lot at KJ Osborne. Like, he's going to have a blow up week somewhere, and it's just figuring out where that week is. So I did a lot of digging into him and the matchup this week. I think I've talked myself into KJ Osborne for really no reason, unfortunately. And I'm not quite sure why. He's in a flex spot for me in a league. It's another 16-teamer, not the one we talked about earlier. So we'll see how that goes. I think it makes a little bit more sense when you're in a 16-team league and, you're starting that many players. But KJ Osborne would be the only guy out of that I'd also probably think through a little bit.
So because I am playing a 1-6 team, I am trying to aim for the safer floor. And that's why I essentially have concluded that Renfrow is my flex starter alongside.
It's fair.
So the 3 running backs that I'm starting, because I have another running back in my flex who is Aaron Jones. He's in my flex because it's a Sunday night start. Najee Harris and Joe Mixon. So those are, again, this team lost Breece Hall and Mike Williams. So I'm also starting Mike Thomas on Monday night.
Freaking Najee Harris. What the hell, man? Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah. This is the same league where I acquired Mahomes and I have good starters, but I losing Williams and Hall is just a kick in all the wrong places. The wrong places. So I've got to essentially hope and pray that Elijah Mitchell can come back, have some relative role, score 7 to 10 points a week, maybe if I'm lucky.
Wouldn't that be nice?
And then I need Mike Williams to also come back on time, at least just for the fantasy playoffs. I believe that given my schedule and my record and my points, top 3 in both in standings and points, that I should be able to just make the playoffs. And as long as I'm tuned up, I can make a run. But God. Killing me.
Time will tell, right?
Time will tell. Time will tell. Who do we have in this game? Are we going Raiders or are we going Saints? It's pretty much even. It's a 1.5 point spread. I like the over 48.5. I know you mentioned that before as well.
Yep. Yeah, I think the Raiders win this game. I'm not willing to take the spread. I would take money line on this one. There's just too many things that can happen. But I do think Raiders come out on top.
Melvin Gordon rushing touchdown. Ouch.
I needed Latavius Murray to get that.
Yep. I have Jerry Jeudy going against Melvin Gordon this week, so no idea.
I should have left Antonio Gibson in. I put Murray in over Gibson this week, which was stupid. What a dumbass play that
We don't know yet. We don't know.
Yeah.
Put the good stuff out there.
I'm on. Well, we'll talk about Washington here later. And I put in my notes about Gibson, and here I am benching him in one situation. I've got him in a bunch of others, but this one I'm not really sure.
But that's also the point of playing in all the leagues that we play in, right? That's the same reason why I pulled off some trade where I gave up all of my future picks, because I'm not out of next year's draft. I have plenty of exposure to those players. I have 7 dynasty, 8 dynasty leagues. I'll be fine. You know what I mean? That's kind of the fun part of that, is that in some places you can be a little bit more risky, and in some places you can play it more safe. I mentioned, in this one team with Hunter Renfrow versus Marquise Goodwin, I'm starting Renfrow. And in a lot of leagues, I'm starting, Marquise Goodwin over guys like Braxton Berrios and Devontae Parker, because I feel like, I can still, land a moonshot there with, one or 2 plays. So you never know. Got to diversify your portfolio.
That you do.
All right, next up, we've got New England and the Jets. Definitely a matchup we're not feeling as comfortable with our options here. They're a little bit more limited. New England, I think it's Ramondre Stevenson and Jacoby Myers, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's what I've got written in my notes. And the more I think about it, I don't even know that I want to start Jacoby Myers. All those corners in New York are actually really solid. And I think Stevenson's the guy. We've seen it when Damian Harris was out. We saw it last week when Damian Harris was back. So I think Stevenson is the only guy I want. I don't want anything to do with Mac Jones, even in super flex leagues. If I can avoid start, I may put a a skill position in over Mac Jones. Like that's how out
Damn.
I am on Mac Jones.
Brandon Cooks or Mac Jones? Fire.
Oh, Mac Jones. I can't. Brandon Cooks is just bad this year. Davis Mills is awful.
It's got to come. It's got to come back around.
Maybe if Brandon Cooks, if he was on a different team like they're talking about, maybe. But right now, he's been bad for 3 or 4 weeks in a row. I'm waiting until he turns it around.
Fair enough. I can't imagine. Well, yeah, we just mentioned we're not starting the quarterbacks. What about Zach Wilson and the Jets? I think Michael Carter is the only person that I feel comfortable with. Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore could be interesting. Elijah Moore, though, has been complaining about the playing time and the touches.
Gets the grease, man.
Is that going to be the case this week? Like, is it Elijah Moore? Like, okay, fine. Here's some targets, or is it, hey, fuck you, man. Here's another Braxton Berrios touchdown.
Yeah, no, I do think it might be a little bit of a get right game for Moore. Now, when I say get right, I don't think he's a guy. He's not a guy I'm looking to put in my lineup all over the place.
I was about to say.
He definitely is somebody that it would not surprise me if he ends up with 7 or 8 targets because of that. But Michael Carter is the only guy that I want in my lineup this week. I don't think James Robinson is going to be super involved. And they know what they have in Michael Carter. So it may be a little bit of an introductory game for Robinson. Carter gets a bulk of that work. And outside of that, I'm not interested. I just, that offensive line got that just hammered again last week. I think it was Elijah Bear Tucker that went out last week and he's missing. And Zach Wilson just runs for his life in the wrong direction. And I was talking about that. This might've been us yesterday or maybe the show Thursday with Dave, where like there was an opportunity where he had like negative 60 rushing yards. I mean, Zach Wilson was running 25 yards in the wrong direction and then chucking the ball just to get rid of it. Like at some point in time, he's going to take a hit during that and lose 25 yards. And he's just sloppy right now. He doesn't look good. And I think this might be a game where the Patriots end up walking away with it.
Oh, I definitely have the Patriots in this one.
Yeah.
Where do we have the spread at?
I don't know that I care.
Oh, no, I don't actually. Sorry. I've got the Jets.
You just have the Jets covering?
No, I've got them. I already picked them to win. So you take that back.
Yeah. No, I think the Patriots are going to end up winning.
It's that damn quarterback situation.
As bad as Mac Jones is.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if he throws the ball off the wire again, they might just bench him. Hey, you can't do that, kid. There's wires up there. Look where you're throwing, pal. Dulcich leading the Broncos in reception yards right now, 4 for 87. Had a big gainer for 1 for 38.
We talked about him yesterday. Hopefully people listened.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, he was a great option. We had him up against Dawson Knox, and we all were on Team Dulcich. Jerry Jeudy, 6 for 63 and a touchdown. If he could just get one more touchdown, that'd be great. That'd be fantastic.
Shockers.
All right. Pittsburgh and Philly, you're starting all your Eagles. You're starting Jalen Hurts. Definitely starting Miles Sanders. I don't know if you want to dig deeper than that in your deeper leagues, 14, 16 team plus for Gainwell or Scott. While they do use all of these guys, they just haven't been offering the same type of touchdown upside. Miles Sanders has looked really good. I feel like he's going to get that bulk work for the running back position. Dallas Goedert must start at tight end. And I don't think we have to really dig deeper than Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. I mean, would you start Quez Watkins or Zach Pascal in like a 16 or 18 team plus league?
No.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Yep. I mean, I'd start Gainwell or Boston Scott over those guys in a 16 or an 18 team. But I agree. Miles Sanders is the guy there from the running back position. I'm avoiding Scott and Gainwell if I can. But yeah, I mean, you got Philly guys, you're playing them. And the Pittsburgh side's tough for me because I love me some George Pickens. But Philly's corners are really good. James Bradbury's really good. Darius Slay's really good. And Pickens is more of a contested catch guy. Like he makes those really hard catches, But Darius Slay, like those two guys are really good. So I just don't know that that's going to be there. Deontay Johnson may get peppered with double-digit targets, but he's only going to catch 4 of them and get no yards after the catch. So he's kind of a pointless play right now. Just Chase Claypool do something. I don't know that I really like Pittsburgh in this game because Philadelphia's defense just overall is really good.
Yeah, in a couple of spots, I have to start Deontay. I have to start Najee. That's it. I mean, if you got Freiermuth, I don't feel bad about him. I just feel like his ceiling is still very low, even when he scores a touchdown. So, and that's really what you're going to need to make your week. I did want to come back and ask you about Kenneth Gainwell because you said that you might be interested in starting him in some deeper formats. So I own him in a 20-team league, and I've got some interesting options. I mean, I have him on my bench, but I want to hear your opinion. So Mike Thomas for me is the guy for the Bengals. You know, the guy to pick up, you know, at least the one that I think can fill the most snaps. I'm starting him, Alec Pierce, and Marquise Goodwin over Kenny Gainwell. And I've also added Devontae Parker to my bench. So of that group, like Gainwell, could you start Gainwell over, you know, Devontae Parker, Mike Thomas, or Goodwin?
I would be looking at either Parker or Gainwell over Mike Thomas. I just think there's so many other options in Cincinnati between Higgins and Boyd and Hurst and Mixon that I just don't know that the opportunities, the snaps may be there because the Bengals run a ton of 3 wide receiver sets. I just don't know that he's going to be able to do a whole lot. Darren Waller is officially out. Side note. Ouch. Dalton Schultz is healthy. Noah Brown is out. Also for the Cowboys. So
maybe
some of those
more love for Gallup.
Yeah, some of these injury reports rolling in on my phone. Yeah, but I'd be looking at Parker or Gainwell over them. And as much as I like Parker, he's going up against Sauce this week, and I just don't think that's going to be a
That's
great
why I got
play.
him on my bench because he's been good. Like, and honestly, if they said like, "Hey, we're starting Zappy," I might feel better about it. Because he's like Devontae Parker has looked good with Zappy the previous weeks. You know, even against last week against Chicago, 3 for 5, 68 yards. The week prior, Cleveland 4 for 6, 64 yards. And the week before that, he had scored a touchdown. Or his last start, he had scored a touchdown.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that I don't want to say you have to be a bad quarterback to like him, but he doesn't create a ton of separation. So if you're a quarterback that is risk averse like Mac Jones is, you're not going to throw to Devontae Parker very much. Whereas Bailey Zappi, he's like, look, I'm a backup. I'm trying to make shit happen. I'm just chucking it up. Devontae Parker, go do your thing, man.
Swinging.
Yeah. You know, so Mac Jones, and you did see one big game from Devontae Parker with Mac Jones. I think it was week 2. He had like 160 yards, but it was only like 3 catches, maybe 3 or 4 catches.
It was 5 catches, 10 targets for 156.
Is that what it was? So it's, you know, it's tough with Mac Jones, but Sauce Gardner, even with Bailey Zappi, I'd probably still find a way to bench Devontae Parker because of Gardner. So I think,
and that's where Mike Thomas comes in, and hopefully, you know, 40 to 50 passing attempts for Joe Burrow. that's what I'm leaning into, Brad.
I hear you.
No, that's literally it. I was just like, well, like the Patriots offense is going to run more. The Bengals are going to pass more. There's available snaps. Somebody's got to fill them. That's it. That's all I got.
That's fair. That is fair.
And it's 20. It's a 20-team league, so
a couple lineups. Oh no, I got Schultz in that one.
I think we're going to have Sebastian Fearon jump on. He is the SGPN Fantasy Injury Specialist. I think he's going to be jumping on here before we close out the show, and he's going to go through some of the last inactives and give us some advice on injuries to avoid and maybe to potentially lean into that might be more safer than we believe. But let's keep it rolling here. Next up, we've got Tennessee and Houston. I mentioned I'm starting Malik over Jared Goff, but again, that's in a tanking situation. I'm not trying to necessarily win. I don't really care if he scores 5 touchdowns. That would be awesome, but I can't like just outright say like, oh yeah, go ahead and start, start Malik. Obviously, it's a big Derrick Henry week. You're never benching him any week, but this is also a week I feel maybe a little bit more comfortable starting actually the receivers on both sides. You had mentioned Brandon Cooks, not a live option, but the matchup up against Tennessee is great. Also love Robert Woods this week. And when I say love, I feel like he's going to get at least like 5 catches for 60 receiving yards. Definitely a flex option that's on my radar. But other than that, there's not too much I'm interested in other than maybe Austin Hooper on a, really desperate situation at tight end.
Yeah.
No, I mean desperate. I mean, I own him and Gerald Everett, and Gerald Everett's on a bye, and there's no one available. Like, that's where I'm starting him.
Yeah, I kind of like Tennessee's cornerbacks, right? So I think they're better than maybe what some of the fantasy points against kind of lead towards.
Sure.
So I'm if I can pivot away from Robert Woods as a flex, I might try to do that. I think this is a very low scoring game. I think this is a game where, and it's going to be low scoring, I believe, because of the rushing, right? I think Dameon Pierce is a smash this week. I think obviously Derrick Henry is. And I think that's going to lead into Malik Willis having a really good game because I think he's going to rush the ball a ton this week. I think they're going to try to play it safe because Houston is not really that great of a football team all around. So I think, because of that I'm really trying to stay away from both quarterback or Davis Mills and all of the pass catching options.
Fair enough. I mean, you probably have better options than Brandon Cooks. I'm dealing with injuries. I'm dealing with buys. He's in my lineups.
Yep. You got to do what you got to do, right?
Yep. He's in there. He's a body.
Yep.
Moving the chains. Let's see here. We have, where's the pick? -1. Could go either way. There's no plus option in this game. I'm leaning Titans here. Give me them on the spread, the money line, and I do have over 39.5.
I'm definitely not playing the over-under game on this one, but I'll definitely take Tennessee in to cover.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Can't argue with that. Commandos and the Colts.
Devontae Adams is active.
Well, I said that before that he was expected to play, but he's sick. Rashad Bateman was active the other day. Son of a bitch. Shouldn't have been active. Should have sat it out, son.
Yep.
All right. Anyways, Commandos, Colts, icky options in this game, Brad.
Yep.
Taylor Heineke, can you do it? I
can. I really, in a super flex league, he is definitely going to be my second quarterback if he's on my bench. I think their pass catching options are good. I think Curtis Samuel's solid. I think Terry McLaurin, whom Heineke just likes, are both good options this week. I think they're both likely to see close to double-digit targets if both of them don't see double-digit targets, with Jahan Dotson being out for the week. I think Antonio Gibson is much more explosive and a much better running back than Brian Robinson. I think Brian Robinson is not great at being a professional running back. He's not explosive. I just don't think he's that good. I see I don't know if he can hear me or not, but as soon as I said it, he kind of raised his eyebrows a little bit underneath. He might not agree, but he's just unimpressive to me. And if I had Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson on my team and I had to plug one of them in, it's going to be Antonio Gibson. He's seen 4 targets, at least 4 targets each of the last 3 weeks. Plus, he's just been way more explosive in that limited role. So I'm gonna go with Gibson, and I'm gonna bench Brian Robinson.
He looks just like the better option to me. I mean, like when I see the usage on the field, Antonio Gibson looks more explosive. Was watching 100%. Was watching that live up against the Bears. I don't watch too much Commandos action, week in and week out, but that game specifically, I was just like, man, like they're giving Brian Robinson so many touches. Every time Gibson touches the ball, he looks amazing.
I mean, he's like 3.5 yards a carry. I mean, he's getting a ton of opportunities, 17 touches or something like that. He just can't do anything with it.
Right.
So.
And then for Indianapolis, we're starting Jonathan Taylor. He's healthy. I am off of Michael Pittman. I feel like with Ellinger in, it's more likely to be a Campbell and Pierce type of week, maybe even a Mo Alley Cox, anytime touchdown, but I don't feel great about those options. I would start them though over a lot of the guys that I have. Talking about plugging in Marquise Goodwin into my lineups, Mike Thomas, I would definitely start those guys, over options like that.
Yeah. Paris Campbell's kind of, I'm blinded because I've had a lovejoy for Paris Campbell ever since he came out of Ohio State.
Mhm.
And he's finally, now I do have him in a couple spots, as stupid as it is that I held him for that long, but
Mhm.
he's looked really good the last 2 weeks, but they're using him in a totally different way than he was used at Ohio State. He was a deep threat at Ohio State. This year, he's very much close to the line of scrimmage. Give him the ball in space, let him do some magic with it. And I think that's going to play right into Sam Ehlinger this week. They're going to use Sam's legs, I think, right? They're going to try to limit his passing, use his legs, get Jonathan Taylor, obviously, the ball as much as possible. And I think Paris Campbell, like you said, is going to be the benefactor of a lot of those underneath routes, kind of close to the line of scrimmage, nice, easy throws for Ehlinger, because that's kind of the rational coaching play. And we always try to assume rational coaching. So I think Campbell's the guy that I would want out of all of them, which sounds crazy to say, but yeah, I'm definitely not on the Michael Pittman train right now.
No, Campbell's looked explosive with the ball in and out of his hands. He's looked kind of like that gadget guy that they've been missing. They've given him rushing attempts. They give him really clean looks on the passing game. It's really just if you trust Ehlinger or not. And I feel like when you're leaning into a first start for a quarterback, going for those second and third options are the way to go, because more than likely that's who they've been hanging out with and throwing passes with on the sidelines while they've been watching Matt Ryan throw goose eggs around the yard. All right, we've got a special guest here. We've got Sebastian Fearon, our injury specialist at SGPN. Good afternoon, sir. How are we doing? Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday, gentlemen. How we doing?
Feeling good. Appreciate you coming on to talk some injuries here. We're about an hour and 15 minutes ahead of kickoff. I know that we've both been getting alerts on our phones of some recent injury action here. So we're going to ask you some questions about guys that are expected to play, and then maybe some other guys that may be still up in the air that you might feel comfortable with. Sounds like Davante Adams is good to go. It was more of an illness here. What do you know about this situation? And I mean, it's Davante Adams. Like, should we really be that concerned about him?
Yeah, I mean, so he was missing practice with some flu-like symptoms. They're saying. I mean, everything's saying that he's feeling better. It's good to go. I mean, it's like you just said, it's Davante Adams. If he's going to play, you got to play him, right? It's nothing. They're going to get the fluids in him, and he should be fine. They'll give him an IV if he needs it or anything like that on the sideline. So I'm not too concerned about him. He should get the targets there against the Saints defense that has just not looked the same this year, especially in the back end. So I would still play him as long as. I mean, honestly, Davante Adams with one leg, I'd probably still throw him out there. So,
okay. And then
on a side note too, Marshawn Lattimore's out, right? So that's going to be a big help for that offense as well. So
what's going on with Darren Waller? He's inactive this week. Is there any anything good on the horizon for him? Is this just not going to be his year?
No, absolutely not. I don't know. So you guys definitely probably recall the Curtis Samuel debacle of last season with the groin injury and how he, it started in training camp. He missed training camp. Ron Rivera's like, he'll be good to go, but like, I think his stat line, he ended with like under 300 yards. I mean, that's kind of the trajectory that Waller's taken in every step of the way. So, when we talk about really burdensome injury, it's your hamstrings, your groins. They're very similar as far as those soft tissue. And you never know when that re-injury is coming because that's going to be right around the corner, unfortunately. So with Waller, it was the same thing. It started in training camp. They were saying it's contract talks. That's why he's not practicing. But he's come back in. He's come practice, and then he'll be out for 2 weeks. And that's how these hamstrings go. Unfortunately, every time you re-injure it, it's always worse because you already had some damage. Now you're breaking that open a little bit more, tearing those ligaments a little bit more. So, I don't really expect Waller to have a super productive year. I think best case, if they can really shut him down and kind of take him a good 3 weeks of rehab. It's just hard when you're a player. You want to be on the field. You want to play. You want to test that hamstring. And it's hard to tell these guys, hey, you got to wait it out. It's probably best for you to wait. But, yeah, I'd be looking for other options at tight end, definitely. It's been a up and down year, and I don't expect it to get much better.
All right, so off Darren Waller, 10-4. Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Let me send a few trade offers out real quick.
Yeah.
Before get rid of him.
Yeah.
All right, Amon-Ra St. Brown. This one feels like legitimately questionable. He looks like he's going to play, cleared from concussion protocol, was practicing on a limited basis. I believe he got in a full practice Friday. Is this someone that you feel comfortable rolling out into your lineups?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, he's actually – so concussions are very tricky, right? It's still something in the medical world that's mostly a mystery. So you never really know how they're going to kind of recover and things like that. But per the research, the past 10 years in the NFL, most guys get back in there within the week, right? I know it's been kind of becoming a bigger thing with the quarterbacks and stuff like that. We're getting that awareness out there. But no, he's cleared. Dan Campbell even said on Monday, I believe, that he kind of cleared the protocol very quickly. It's just the new rules where since he was they basically tested him, he wasn't allowed to come back in the game. But from everything the Lions have said, he's practiced. He was practicing Wednesday with a red non-contact. He did a full practice Friday. I mean, he's such an integral part of that offense, and Goff and him have a good relationship. I would absolutely be comfortable starting him today.
All right, right on. Brad, you mentioned that you were comfortable starting Dalton Schultz this week. Sebastian, tell us a little bit about Schultz and if we should be trusting him in this matchup up against the Bears.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's going to be a little bit of judgment call just because I do think I like Schultz coming in the year when Dak and him have a good relationship. They seem to he gets a lot of receptions, right? He's kind of his safety blanket there. But, dealing with that PCL injury, typically the re-injury rates aren't too crazy high, but he's already kind of tweaked it and re-injured it. And last week he was coming off, they said he tweaked it, but he should be fine. So really it's kind of what other options do you have? If you don't have another option, I mean, you're going to have to roll the dice there with Schultz, but I'm probably about 50% confident with him right now. I wouldn't love it, but I understand, you might get some receptions, but since he's already tweaked it last week, he could definitely come out and give you a dud. So I would, again, better options. I'd probably roll him out there. If not, you're going to have to go ahead and take that risk.
Yeah, last week was so weird, right? Because the way that he tweaked it wasn't like, he does a little juke move and tweaks it. It got kind of pinned under him on a tackle from behind. It was a very odd kind of re-injury for that. Not so much, trying to move laterally that caused it.
Yeah, well, with those PCLs, actually, they're a weird injury, right? You don't see them much because it takes something weird to happen. A lot of what you'll see is like what we say, people will fall up the stairs and you kind of get that force that knocks it directly back. Or when you're in a car accident, you get the dashboard coming at your knees. It's not a common injury. It's kind of a weird thing. So kind of unfortunate event that I tweaked there, but you're just kind of, if you got to start him, you're just hoping nothing weird happens, right? So
fingers crossed, because I just got word Darren Waller's out and Schultz is my only other option. So
there you go. Yeah.
All right. Next up, we got Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Lockett's dealing with a hamstring and a rib injury. Metcalf, what was it? His patella?
Yeah, it's patella tendon. Yeah. That injury looked pretty gnarly to start. They carted him off. No one really knew. And it's because it's kind of like with the knee, you never know. You're always thinking ACL. So your patella tendon is what connects your patella to your tibia down there. So that runs over top of the ACL. So it's in the same area. So people kind of were a little afraid there. But yeah, so both of those guys, number one, they're playing a Giants defense here. That's so I don't know if I can really be recommending any of them, but no,
Sorry.
They're both limited, right? They're coming in kind of banged up a little bit, but it seems like they're going to give it a go. I would say I have more faith probably in Metcalf because he's right away. He said he was going to be good to go, and he could kind of tell. So it was kind of more like people were worried because they thought it was going to be something ACL, something like that. But Tyler Lockett with the hamstring and the rib, he just sounds beat up going in, and those hamstrings are always really pesky. So I would say I have a little bit more faith in Metcalf today.
Okay.
But really, both those guys coming in kind of limited isn't a great sign. Obviously, if you have them both, they're likely going to be in your starting lineup. But I would say, if you got a better option than Lockett today, I'd probably throw him in there. Metcalf, I'd probably leave in.
Okay, fair enough. Logan Thomas looks like he is going to be active today. Looks like he's going to be good to go coming off a calf injury. Tight end, it's super volatile. Maybe Brad can even go grab Thomas in that league. Is that someone that you would trust this week coming back from an injury?
My bigger concern with Logan Thomas is, coming back from still that ACL that he's been coming from. He hasn't gotten much playing time this year just because they were holding him back and things like that. So the calf injuries, they're similar to your hamstring or groin. You talk about that soft tissue. They can kind of flare up on you. Like you said, tight end super volatile, right? So we're taking some shots in the dark. If we're doing like a comparison, I'd probably go Schultz over someone like Logan Thomas. Okay. But he's just going to be a high variable play. You really don't know what you're going to get out of him, especially with Heineke there. What's the connection? So I don't have a lot of faith in him, but do I have a lot of faith in that Commanders offense as a whole? Probably not. So
fair enough. Coming back to that New Orleans and Raiders game, Juwan Johnson looks like he's going to be active. Had a booming week last week. Again, tight end, super volatile. He's going to be active, in a, deeper format, deeper league. Obviously, a lot of us are dealing with injuries. Brad had mentioned his few here. Would he be someone that you'd be looking to start even with the injury concerns?
Yes.
Okay.
And this one comes from a lot because of the Saints' lack of skill players right now. So you have Thomas out again, Jarvis Landry out again, right? So who's getting the ball? Obviously they love them Taysom Hill down there and Kamara's still down there, but you got to throw it to somebody, and he's such a big target. Right. A lot of those things, with these injuries, it's what do they rely on? So when you have some smaller guys that really rely on their quickness and lateral ability, some of these injuries are more concerning where, someone like Juwan Johnson, who's just a big target that you can just get there and all he's got to do is really sit down in that zone. I mean, even if he's a little banged up, you can trust that a little bit more. Some of those tight ends can they can take a little more damage and still get you those receptions that you need, and they don't have to rely on that yards after catch there. So yeah, I would trust him this week.
Okay, right on.
And
Brad, do you have any
out again, right? So
Adam
Troutman did get called out, so that removed some of that not that he was getting a lot of opportunity, but any of that competition going away is good. So
should mean a good amount of snaps for Juwan Johnson. Brad, did you have any questions for this week or season long for Sebastian?
Season long? No, I don't think so. So I actually, the hell with it. I'm a Browns fan. I'm gonna homer it for a second here. The David Njoku ankle issue. So you see him coming back from that in the 2-week time frame that they've kind of thrown out there. And if so, is he even going to be a reliable guy? Because he's a big guy, big tight end, but he really relies on that athleticism a good amount for how he plays the position.
Oh yeah, that's actually a great one. Yeah, actually, it's funny because he's a Jersey guy. He's from the Jersey area, so I've actually met him in a gym. And I've seen him nice. So he is definitely what they call a freak athlete. He fits that bill, right? So his injury was unfortunate to see because it is that high ankle sprain, right? So when we talk about ankle sprains, there's a low one, the one we all think about. Oh, I rolled my ankle on the basketball court or whatever. That's kind of your typical one. That one you can get back in 1 to 2 weeks. When we talk about this higher ankle sprain, it's again higher, right? So it's that ligament that connects your two bones. That it requires more damage to kind of sprain. So it's going to take longer to heal. I don't really that 2 to 5 week timeline. I don't know where they got the 2 weeks. Generally, when you're speaking, looking at return to play times, you're looking at closer to 4 to 6 in a mild case. So I know they give a big wide range, but I'd be looking closer to 4 for him to come back and start being somewhat reliable, right? Even if they bring him back in the 2 weeks, one, I wouldn't advise it. I think, at that point you're running re-injury risk. And two, he's not going to be able to cut and run and jump. I mean, it's a big stability piece in your leg that you don't think about. We don't think about these things a lot until we're injured. So I would say, I think best case, you let him have 4 weeks to fully rehab and then bring him back. If they bring him back in the 2 weeks, I would not feel comfortable with him playing.
I need him back like yesterday. So, when can I start Michael Thomas?
Hey, if you kind of read I did an Outlook piece here at the beginning of the year, and I tried to tell people to stay away from Michael Thomas, man. He's been a headache for a long time, and he had 1 or 2 good games, and he's right back on the snide there. So, it's going to be a while. There's not even a lot out there on what exactly the injury is. Obviously, some teams keep that close to the vet. It's a foot injury, but, I mean, it's not looking good, right? He had the hamstring concerns. He had the ankle, the infamous ankle injuries that he's been dealing with, the surgeries. I just don't think he's going to be a reliable receiver in this league for the rest of his career. It's just not in the cards, unfortunately, for him. Who knows? I could be wrong. I will gladly admit it. Hope the best for him. But, yeah, I haven't trusted him really since he decided to get ankle surgery to knock him out for most of the year last year. I think that's kind of was a red flag right away. And all these other injuries popping up is just it's
Someone gave me Mike Thomas or someone gave me Mike Thomas and a second for Alan Lazard. So, can't wait to use that second round pick.
There you go.
Mike Williams and Jamar Chase. Like, should we expect them back for the fantasy regular season? So or I guess fantasy relevant games like the playoffs or regular season, I should say.
Yeah. All right. So we'll start with Mike Williams. Yeah, let's go there. So he's got that high ankle sprain. So a lot of his stuff is kind of where the Njoku conversation was. They're expecting it to be a mild, right? So they gave about at least a month, so that 4-week timeline.
Right.
So yeah, I mean he should be back in the 4 to 6 week timeline, which would put you right around, leading into the playoffs, if not right first round there. So it's going to be a little while, right? There's not going to be. I don't think he can really come back before the 4 weeks. I don't think they put him on IR yet, but he's looking at that range, right? Again, same thing. If he comes back really before those 4 weeks, I wouldn't really trust him in your lineups. I think that's just a re-injury waiting to happen. That's a little too soon for that to really recover. Moving to Jamar Chase, there's a little bit more mystery there, right? So that news kind of broke midweek, and I know I wasn't tracking that at first, and they haven't put him on IR, and they really just ruled him out for next week. The hard part with that is so a hip injury, that doesn't really tell me anything. So I'm trying to wait and see if we can get some more information there. But basically what they're saying is he hurt his hip 2 weeks ago against New Orleans, and then he aggravated the injury, right? So that's all automatically a bad sign because, again, when you re-injure something that's already injured, if it's not already 100% healed, it's going to be more damaging than it started, right? So that's already concerning. So unfortunately, I can't give a good timeline on Jamar Chase because we don't know exactly what's happening. But the fact that he's not on IR yet is a good sign, right? So they're going to try to do everything they can to get him back as soon as possible. So I would say both those guys can be probably expected back for playoffs for fantasy, but I don't know how much of regular season work you're going to get out of them.
All right. Zeke Elliott, James Conner, been ridden with kind of injury here, in recent years. Who's going to be more reliable down the stretch of this season?
Well, I think, I think you got to go Conner because I think he's the best back in his backfield, where I don't think I can say that about Zeke, right? I mean, we're going to see a lot of Tony Pollard today. And I mean, he just looks way more explosive. He passes the eye test. The stats are there. I know they gave Zeke a big contract, right? So they want to feed Zeke and things like that. But when they start playing these tougher games, I really think they're going to start relying more on Pollard. So I would going forward, I think I would trust Conner a little bit more because that Arizona team just functions better when he's in the lineup. He's a little bit of a bigger back there. He can get those goal line carries, which Zeke could as well, but they don't move down the field as much, as good as they do with Pollard in the lineup. So I would go Conner there. And
then one I forgot about when I mentioned Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. What's up with Keenan Allen? He came back last week, but didn't look like he was right just yet. Is he going to be somebody that we can trust down the stretch of this season? I know, I need him so badly.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's really just copy paste from what we were talking about with Darren Waller with that hamstring injury. Gotcha. The good thing, well, I don't know about good thing. The better thing is he hasn't at least kind of tested it in the game to where you're really trying to push it and things like that. Because he's only played since he started. He played week 1 and hasn't played since, and they're off the bye here.
Did he not play last week?
Well, was he? I mean, he didn't get many targets. He wasn't in for most of the game. He might have.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, so I think he was on the sideline suited up, but I know for the majority of the game he was not in there, which is unfortunate. So for him, it's one of those frustrating things where he's multiple times he's came back to practiced, and then either re-injured or not felt good enough to play that week, right? And that's always a concern because especially when you get those aggravations, again, you're just causing more damage. And hamstrings are tough. You really can't tell when you're going to be ready to go until you try it, right? So it's kind of one of those very frustrating things. And you're talking about someone who's used to performing at a high level. It's hard to tell them, hey, just relax, hold off, right? They know one speed. But to say reliable, no, I don't think he's going to be reliable. Can he make it back in the next 2 to 3 weeks? Sure, yeah. But I mean, he could re-injure it again and be out for the rest of the year. So it's an unfortunate thing for Keenan Allen. I know the Chargers really need him. And without Williams for the next 4 weeks, really him coming off the bye would be nice for them. But I don't know how reliable he's going to be. I would potentially use him as like a trade bait to say, hey, he should be coming back. He should be coming back because unfortunately, that hamstring doesn't seem like it's going to be holding up very well this season.
Damn.
Yes, it's
Could
tough.
have just said I'm shit out of luck.
Waller and Keenan Allen owners. Hopefully you don't have them both, but yeah, that's just the brutal beat there.
I have I did grab Michael Thomas and Keenan Allen on the same roster. Still have a winning record.
There you go. Your IR is pretty good.
We're keeping it alive. Mike Thomas starts. Let's go. Well, that's all that I got as far as injury concerns. Brad, did you want to add anything in?
Another one, just one more, and this one's probably more under the radar, more of a guy that was a waiver wire type of dude early on, and that's DJ Shark, a guy that I was really excited about in Detroit. Looked really good for a couple weeks, sustained that injury, didn't go on the IR initially. I think he was out for probably 2 or 3 weeks, and then they transitioned him to IR. So I'm curious if there's any reason to even think about a DJ Shark for the Detroit Lions for redraft or even dynasty leagues, really.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I'm looking into his right now because that's one that I kind of knew and then forgot about, and they did put him on the IR there. So that's that ankle. So we're again probably talking about something high ankle sprain, and the fact that they put him on IR probably means it's a grade 2, which just means it's a little bit more severe, right? So when you're talking about grade 1, the minor stuff's 4 to 6. Grade 2, you start thinking about more of that 6 to 8 range. So probably not, unfortunately.
Toast.
Yeah, and I did like Chark coming into the year just because there was a lot of people, just because his ADP was so low. I mean, there was people consistently drafting Jameson Williams before him, and I was trying to tell people, hey, there's a good chance that James Williams does not play meaningful football this year, and it's probably in his best interest just because how late he tore his ACL there in that SEC championship game, or I think he was the Natty in the National Championship there last year. Yeah, so I mean, that's definitely unfortunate, but yeah, it's not looking good for DJ Chark. You're gonna have to look somewhere else. I mean, obviously Amon-Ra is gonna take most of your snaps there, but if you can maybe get a Josh Reynolds or Khalif Raymond in there, potentially someone's got to step up and be wide receiver number 2. So who that is kind of still remains to be seen.
All right, you guys want to do some over under picks before we head out?
Let's do it.
All right, sweetness. Appreciate you coming on, bud. It's awesome.
Yeah, man, happy to be on. Yeah, absolutely. Love.
We're gonna be doing these every Sunday going forward for the rest of the season. So come on in, and if you want to run through
I'll be honest as much as I can. Yeah, let me say this. I'll be honest as much as the fiance lets me. We're full on in wedding plan season, so she's out.
Hey, congrats!
Trying to pick her. I appreciate it. She's trying to pick her wedding dress, right? So that's one activity I can't be involved in. So here I am.
There you go.
Nice. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to throw you guys some over-unders for fantasy points. These are via Underdog. If you guys want to go get these picks in your lineup and make some money, here you go. First up, Eno Benjamin, 11.05. Darrell Williams is active in this game. What do you guys got, over-under?
11, you said.
11. I like the over here. 11 seems a little bit low. Might be getting a discount with Williams healthy.
Do they do half point or full point?
I believe it's full point. Let me see if I can pull up where's the little button that shows you the.
Yeah, no, I would go over. I think he's filled in pretty nicely. Obviously, Connor's not going to be there, and I think Connor's the only one that really I would be concerned about for him. So I would say over. He's looked pretty good actually.
Yeah, I like the matchup.
Yep. Yeah, I'll go with the over there as well. It looks like Darrell Williams, even if he does play, it's likely going to be limited. I haven't seen an out yet for him, but yeah, I'll go with the over on that if it's full point.
Okay. Let's see. We mentioned Devontae Adams. He's at 16.75 fantasy points. Leaning into the illness, leaning into the Jordan play. I'm still going under. A lot of points.
16.5. I mean, it's so hard because it's Devontae Adams, right? I mean, you can be really talking about 2 catches there, and he's kind of got you there with the touchdown. But
that would be explosive. Two catches on that. It's half point PPR. Every 10 yards is a point, rushing and receiving. 6 point receiving.
6 point receiving. You know what? I think I'm gonna go over because no Waller. No Marshawn Lattimore is my biggest thing. That Saints pass rush just hasn't been there. I think Derek Carr, both of these teams are desperate for a win, right? If you're going to start talking about postseason, you need a win. I have a little bit more faith in the Raiders this game, so I'm gonna go over because I think if they're gonna win this game, they need to have a big day.
What do you got, Brad?
I'm going over. I think it's a huge game for him with Marshawn Lattimore out. Darren Waller being out, he's just going to be continue to get peppered with targets. He's had double-digit targets. Let's see, 3 out of 6 weeks. He had 9 last week. I think you're going to see more of the same. And he's gone over that number 4 out of the 6 games. So I'm okay with taking the under there.
Play contrarian. I'll take it. Miles Sanders, 12.85. I like the over here.
Oh.
Against the Steelers.
He's going to need a touchdown for that. Basically, is how that's going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't love the matchup, but I like the potential game script of them being up big and really just trying to lean into the running game. Right. And at that point, how much are they going to really want to run Hurts if they are up big? So probably will get a decent day. 12.5. Yeah, I'll go over with you because he's actually been running pretty well this year. And like I said, I think they're going to be up pretty big. That Pickett's going to probably have a couple turnovers with that defense, and they'll probably just be able to running that clock for like the whole second half.
What do you think, Brad?
I think I'm going to go under. I just think Hurts scavenges those touchdowns too often. I do think Miles Sanders has a good game, right? He'd be over 70, 75 yards. But like I said, unless he has an explosion on the yardage front, he's not going to catch a lot of passes. He's going to need that touchdown to get him over 12.5. So I'm going to go with the under right now.
Fair enough. We'll do 2 more. DJ Moore, 11.45. So needs 11.5. Again, I like it. Give me the over.
I've had DJ Moore, and the 1 week I decided to finally get him on my lineup last week. I said, you know what? I've had enough pops, and so I'm gonna go under because he's out of my lineup again. I can't trust him.
He hurt you.
And I think the Falcons defense is actually kind of scrappy. I will say AJ Terrell being out for them is not good news as far as that matchup, right? So he would do better. I don't trust this Carolina team at all. I can't trust that offense. They like PJ Walker's rolling out there again. I don't trust anything about them. I think last week was more about how bad that and broken that Bucs team is more so than the Panthers being any type of good. They got the bounce. They traded away McCaffrey. They have a new coach. Now I think they go back to reality and they just get pummeled.
What do you think, Brad?
Yeah, I'm going to go over. I think the AJ Terrell is a big deal for them. I do, and DJ Moore, you get him the ball in space, he can create a little bit of yardage. You give him 5 catches for 50 to 60 yards. I think he can manage that in a game where I do think it's a slow-moving game. I do think this is an under type of over-under game in the grand scheme of things, but I think he gets us some opportunity because who else is going to? For catching the ball. Deonta Foreman's not a huge pass catching threat for Carolina now that CMC's gone. Robbie Anderson is out of town. So we talked about Terrace Marshall and Shi Smith, but are they going to combine for any more than maybe 6 or 7 targets total? Probably not. The tight ends, maybe 1 or 2 apiece between Tommy Tremble and Ian Thomas. So I think he's going to get peppered with a good amount of targets and he'll be able to produce with them.
Tommy Tremble touchdowns make me sick. Malik Willis, no fantasy point total. Underdog, they're cowards. They won't do it. But they've got some numbers for him. 46.5 rushing yards, over under.
Oh, I think you got to go. I'm going to go over because
what else is he going to do?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what else does he need to do against this Texans team? I mean, they can be scrappy on defense for sure, but if Lovie Smith just confuses him, he's just going to tuck it down and run. And that's all you really need him to do, right? I mean, so I think it'd be in his best interest today if he wants to get his first win, just run. If it looks murky and coverage is, strange, just run. Just tuck it down. So I'm going to go over.
Yep, I'm going to go over as well. I'd be surprised if 100% of practice was not running RPOs. So
you
I think
probably
he's
do
gonna
have
be able to
Henry
hit that.
line up in the Wildcat a few times this week.
Oh yeah, yep.
I would imagine so. They also have him at half an interception, which I think should be a smash on the over.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, Stingley's been playing well from them. Their pass defense is actually pretty good. I'm looking at the numbers here. I mean, yeah, they're giving up 160 on the ground and only 250 through the air. So, I mean, between Henry and Willis, yeah, really, you could probably just run the Wildcat and come away with the W there.
Yep, absolutely. All right, this has been great. Sebastian, appreciate you coming on, sir. Find him on Twitter at SGPN Football Doc. You can find me at SGPN JB, Brad at FF Bourbon Dude. Follow the SGPN Fantasy page on Twitter at SGPN Fantasy. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com, smash the fantasy tab. We've got all sorts of good stuff for you. We've got Brad's snapshot articles. You've got Sebastian's weekly injury updates. He's always rolling through, who's going to be inactive, active, gives you that advice whether to, start, sit, or maybe, hold off until Sunday till maybe we jump on the air and give you some better advice. Anything else you guys have to share before we head out?
Good luck.
Yeah, now let it ride and let's have a good week, boys.
Tread lightly. Take care. Be good. Be well. And if you can't be good at it. We'll see you.
Cheers.